Hello, NBA fans. This is Wilson. Um, Please excuse my fan. I'm sure you can hear it in the background, but it's summer has come early in Los Angeles, so uh, please just bear with me. But I mean, I just had to hop on here about 10 minutes ago or so. Uh, the Knicks got finished uh, choking away Game One of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers. Currently, right now, it's Monday at 8:25 p.m. On the West Coast, and man, what a game that was! What a comeback that was by the Pacers. The final score was 138 to 135 in overtime. The Knicks had, I think it was what was their biggest lead before? I think it was it 17? It was 15. It was 17. They let Cat made a three with 6 minutes and 26 seconds left to make it 111 to 94. And then basically Aaron Nesmith just went absolutely nuclear. He scored, let me see, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. Is that 20 points? He scored 20 points in the last 6 minutes. 21. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being unprofessional. I'm looking at the uh, the the play by play on the ESPN app. Um, and I have it says by my count that's 22 points that he scored in the last 6 minutes or so um, of the game, and he finished with 30. So basically, for Knicks fans, it wasn't even in the last 6:26. Or yeah, it was in the last 6 minutes and 12 seconds. He scored 22 points. And at the end of regulation, you saw Haliburton with the step back and the it was I think the 3 point line is 22 feet 9 inches. I mean, his foot was on the line, but it wasn't even his foot; his toe was on the line, and that's what allowed the game to go into overtime. The ball bounced and went way up and came down. What was another shot where that happened, where the ball bounced way up and came way down? What shot was that? I forget. Um, but yeah, man, it was amazing. And then Halliburton, he does the the choke sign like Reggie Miller, back in I guess that was '94 or '95, one of those years. And uh, but it went to overtime. As I said, his foot was on the line, and the Pacers prevailed in OT. Uh, I mean, as amazing as the game was, really, the reason had to hop on here was because this Halliburton thing has been. Uh, I feel like it's starting to reach like a fever pitch. You had the thing a couple weeks ago, I think, where people were the NBA players voted that Halliburton was the the most overrated player in the league. And I made a post and said my piece. I said he's actually the most he's underrated, not overrated. Because he's one of those guys who he's a throwback point guard in the mold of guys that I grew up watching. For the kids listening, any youngsters that they don't listen to this right now, for most of basketball history, with a few exceptions, like a tiny Archer ball. When you're talking about like I mean, see, once upon a time there was Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson back in those days, the Oscar Robertson Jerry West days. Really, they didn't differentiate between point guard and shooting guard. They were just called guards, right? Now Oscar Robertson was the type of guard. He basically played the way like a Shea Gilgis Alexander plays today. So he was big. He was 6'5", or Luca, anybody like that. Big 6'5" guy, strong, and he basically everything ran through him in the offense. Obviously, averaging triple double. Um, a phenomenal player. Um, but outside of I mean, like we're talking about like true, yeah. At this point, I guess I don't know. When you talk about true point guards, so and that's where Haliburton comes in because it got to a point where like I said, when I was coming up in the '90s, I missed Magic Johnson. Unfortunately, he retired in '91. I was 3, and then when he came back, that wasn't really the real Magic Johnson. But I still got to see Gary Payton, John Stockton, Jason Kidd. Those were the 3 best point guards of the '90s. You had guys like Kevin Johnson was he was a little bit more aggressive scoring wise, but he still was somebody who he was an assist man. Same thing with a guy like Tim Hardaway, especially when he was in Golden State. You know, but really, the point guard position is supposed to be a position where as a point guard, your goal is to run the offense, set up your teammates, and then if you're good enough, like a Magic Johnson or Isaiah Thomas, people like that, then at the you kind of pick your spots to take over, and at the end of the game, that's when you take over the game. And of course, when I say Isaiah Thomas, I mean Isaiah Lord Thomas, not the Isaiah Thomas, the youngsters, 5'9" Isaiah Thomas. Talking about Isaiah Thomas, the Bad Boy Pistons. And though Isaiah Thomas, I mean Magic Johnson was a unicorn, and in a certain sense, Haliburton is as well. When you start talking about big point guards, obviously Magic was one of one. He was 6'9". He had Penny Hardaway. Penny was 6'7", and he was an absolute phenom in Orlando in the early years. And then you have this guy Haliburton, who's 6'5", and he plays the game like those guys that I grew up watching. Right now, in the modern era, starting with, I would say, Allen Iverson. When he first got to the league, he played the point, and then under Larry Brown, he played the 2 guard. And then after Larry Brown, he moved back to the point. And so he was playing the point guard, averaging 25. His average career high was 33 points a game in 2006. He was playing the point doing that, right? But how does somebody say it? Well, it's like somebody like Iverson when he was playing the point. The same thing goes for Curry. Same thing goes for Westbrook, Kyrie, Dame Lillard, all the guys of that ilk. They're lead guards, right? Not really true point guards. Like Shane says about Curry, that Curry is not a true point guard, right? Or as Bomani would say, I've heard him say once on his podcast, they're point guards, they're not passing guards, right? So, but this guy Haliburton is a passing guard, but he's also the type of player who he can score. Also, it's just not what he puts first, but he picks his spots when it's time for him to score. And at the end of the game, there's nobody in the NBA right now that is better than Tyrese Haliburton. I think at one point the recent stat was this season, it was 10 out of 11 with a chance to tie or take the lead at the end of the game, something like that. And he just continues to do that. This is, won a game, one or two games against, won a game against Milwaukee, won a game against Cleveland. I think that was game 1. And, as Lakers fans, man, we all got to watch Kobe Bryant. And I don't think there's ever been a player other than Michael Jordan who more cherished the opportunity to take the last shot, to take the shot that, silenced the road crowd, hit the buzzer beater, whatever it is, than Kobe Bryant. But Haliburton, uh, and I hate this word because I just made another post talking about how hero ball is. I'd rather have a guy who plays hero ball than a guy who's, you know, cares more about his efficiency than he does about winning the game. But Haliburton, if you just go by, his success rate in those moments, he's been more efficient than Kobe in those moments, lately. Kobe was the type of guy who he would take that shot every single time. And, I don't know what the exact numbers on it or what its field goal percentage was. People have talked about that a lot. But, the way I look at it is if you're willing to take it every single time, and it goes back to the thing about efficiency, I'd rather have a guy who, if you took 20 shots in that type of situation, of course your field goal percentage is probably going to be higher than someone who took 100 shots in that situation, right? But the key is not being afraid to take the shot in the first place. Halliburton's a guy who's, I mean, he has no fear of the moment at all. No, he has no fear of the moment at all. He's completely fearless, completely confident, the most confident player in the league. And I just say it's all. I remember there's a guy named Brad White, who I really became cool with back when I was really into boxing, and he loved Roberto Duran, and he used to tell me that this story about could have been Pat Putnam, I forget. It was back in the '80s when boxing was in its heyday, and there was a writer there. I think it was writing in Sport magazine, and he was talking about Duran in the lead up to the fight with Leonard, the first Leonard fight in Montreal, and how Brad used to quote it all the time. How Duran in the lead up to the fight, it's like as the fight became closer, it's like a certain joy like overcame him, and it was visible because he was about to be able to get in there and go toe to toe. And he used to bring that up because he said that Manny Pacquiao, when you recall when Pacquiao would be walking in the ring, and he would be smiling on the way to the ring, like yes, I get to fight. It reminded Brad of that when Pacquiao would remind him of Durant. And Haliburton in these moments, right, at the end of the game, that's the type of glee that Haliburton has. And it seems like it's like even better when it's on the road. And he has a sense of not just a sense of the moment, but a sense of history. Obviously he knows he's playing for the Pacers. He's playing the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, playoffs, the conference finals, you know. So, we know what that harkens back to the days of Reggie Miller and the great series they had in the, they met in the playoffs 94, 95, what other years did they meet in the playoffs? For sure, 99 and 2000. So, and of course, those were classic series. And so, but when he makes the shot tonight, the one that sent it to overtime, initially everybody thought, I think, that I was game over, but it's total on the line, as I said. But then, choke, he does the choke sign like Reggie, and I think he points to the crowd. He's probably pointing at Spike. I'm sure Spike was there. I didn't see him tonight, but I'm sure he was there. And man, it's amazing for a player to have the type of agency to go, okay, not only do I have a sense of the moment and a sense of history, able to perform, and it's like if you think about like when you're a kid, and people say, man, I always grew up, I would fantasize about making the big shot to win the big game or making whatever your sport was. To have the agency and the skill level to be able to actually perform and carry out those types of childhood dreams, is crazy. It's like the guy is going in real time as it's happening. He's like I said, I know where I am. I'm playing for the Pacers. We're in Madison. I'm about to do this. You know, to be able to have that type of uh, control and command of what's going on the basketball court is incredible. And he just consistently rises to the occasion. And I just had to get on here and finally, get on this podcast and say something about it. And we haven't recorded since the end of April, and I didn't know when I was gonna, when there was gonna be some new um, uh, content. Well, not new content because I'm still uploading stuff all the time, but some fresh uh, uh, discussion or conversation. Even though it's just me talking on this. I don't know. I didn't know when something new, was gonna, come to the channel. But I've been uploading old stuff, but I just had to get on here tonight and finally, say something on the podcast about Haliburton, because he is phenomenal, and I think his team, like they always say, a team takes on the personality of its leader, and Haliburton is so confident in himself, and I think the Pacers. It's just like I remember reading I think in Shaq's book. Shaq talks back, and he was talking about how Phil Jackson. The Lakers would never panic because Phil would never panic, right? And so if the general doesn't panic, then the troops won't panic, the soldiers won't panic. And I think the Pacers, because Haliburton is so cold, so ice cold, I think they feel like they always have a chance to win the game. And I think that they have taken on the personality of their leader, um, and I just think it's amazing. And I think Rick Carlisle is he's coaching himself into the Hall of Fame. If you look at what he's done uh, in Indiana, the first time. Making the conference. Tonight was the first Pacers. To show the graphic after the Pacers finish it off tonight. It's the Pacers' first win in the conference finals since 2004. That series against the Pistons. Of course, the next year, the Palace happens, and that Pacers team was never the same, right? But then Carlisle, he goes to the Mavericks. He wins the championship with Dirk and Kidd and those guys. And then he coached Luka in Luka's early years. And then he comes back to Indiana, and now Indiana's in the conference finals for the second straight year. And they're up 1-0 now on the Knicks. When I look at this series, before the series started, I looked at it one of two ways. Number one, with my heart, I still hope the Knicks win because basketball is just better when the Knicks are good. They haven't won a title since '73. And New York is such a great basketball city, and they deserve to have a good team. They deserve to see the Knicks win their first championship in 52 years, right? So with my heart, I'm still going with the Knicks and picking the Knicks. With my mind, though, I was already leaning Pacers for the simple reason that if one team's best player is 6'5", Haliburton is 6'5", and the other team's best player is 6'1", Jalen Brunson is 6'1". Well, I mean, what that means is that most of the time, if you look at the history of the NBA, most of the time that means that the team the team with the best player who's larger in physical stature is normally the team that wins. And so the Knicks, as great as Jalen Brunson is, they list him as 6'2", actually. Cat is their most talented player, but he's not their best player. Brunson is their best player and their most important player. I just think that that's kind of what the Knicks are up against. Haliburton is 6'5", and as great as Brunson is at 6'2", it's it seems pointless to say because he delivers so much, despite his size, but it's just easier for somebody 6'5". And you saw that dime that Haliburton dropped off to, I think, Nembhard in the overtime. it's just a guy who can beat you passing, he can beat you scoring. You know, Brunson can beat you scoring. He's not so much going to beat you passing as much, not in the way that Haliburton does. Haliburton I have 31 points, 11 assists. He was 12 out of 23. Nesmith got up to 30 points. That's it for 22 points in the last 6 minutes and 12 seconds of regulation. So uh, now the other way of looking at it, right, is that last year, um, the Knicks and Pacers met in the conference finals. Sorry, in the conference semifinals. It was a 7-game series, and the Pacers pulled it out. But if you recall, Julius Randle missed. Did he miss the whole series last year, or was it just? Uh, he didn't even. He wasn't. He didn't play in the playoffs last year. So there was no Julius Randle last year, and it still went 7 games. Now the Knicks are completely healthy, and um, so that would be something for the Knicks' favor. If they were able to keep it that close last year without Randle, now that they have Towns and they're healthy, I think the Knicks will be able to pull it out. And then, of course, the other thing working in the Knicks' favor, even though they lost tonight, they lost home court advantage, is that, it would take a miracle for them to lose, right? I know the Pacers have been doing this kind of regularly in the playoffs, but that is something that, if there's any silver lining to take from this for the Knicks, I know they feel terrible right now. I would say that's the thing. That, yeah, they lost, but it took literally a miracle for them to lose, right? So, yeah, man, I'm still, as much as I love Haliburton, I'm still rooting for the Knicks to try to bounce back and get game 2 and then go to Indiana, get at least one of those. And then once you do that, you regain home court. And this is probably going to be a 7-game like series, man. But this Pacers team is really good. I just like their size and their versatility. I just like their team. But I know Knicks fans are down, but I think they still have hope. In the West, Game 1 of the West finals yesterday, between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. The Thunder won by 26, but I don't think it was actually that. They led by 10 to start the fourth, and it was a 10-point game. Thunder led with 6 minutes and 4 seconds left, and then from there the Thunder pulled away and made it look like more lopsided than it actually was. But I was thinking, my general thought on it is that, the Thunder just went 7 games. The series with the Nuggets ended on Sunday. They had to turn right back around and play the Timberwolves on a Tuesday, and the Timberwolves beat the Warriors in 5, and they hadn't played since Wednesday the 14th. So the Timberwolves had 6 days off. So basically, for the Timberwolves to come in with 6 days off, if they couldn't beat the Thunder in Game 1 before the Thunder could even catch their breath, that might not be a good sign. That might not be a good sign for the Timberwolves. Now, on the other hand, maybe the Thunder was still just kind of running off adrenaline after that series against the Nuggets, and maybe after that wears off, whether it be in Game 2 or whether it be once the series goes to Minnesota, maybe that's when the Timberwolves will be able to turn the tide a bit Uh, but I think that's why I was hoping that Denver would beat uh, would beat. Um, I was hoping Denver would beat OKC because really OKC. I mean, they won 68 games during the regular season. They're the best team, and of course today Shea was named the MVP of the league, well deserved. It's 71 place votes, I think. So they're the best team, that's why I was rooting for Denver because Denver really. I feel like the Knicks would have a better chance at winning the championship if they had to they could get past the Pacers and it was either the Nuggets or the Timberwolves that they had to face in the finals. But OKC is the best team. They're just still kind of young and you know sometimes it's like who's their number two guy? Is it Jalen? Is it Chet? Is it neither one of them? Um, Shea is who Shea is, but uh, sometimes Chet and like they don't have a you know Jalen's not quite Scottie Pippen yet, to say the least, right? He's playing well, I'd say, but I think that the I think the Thunder, and I mean they're still young, right? I think Jalen is in year, um, I think he's in year three. Let me see what he's done in the playoffs so far this year. He's 24 years old though. He obviously was an All-Star this year. Averaged 22, 5, and 5. I mean that's pretty darn good. And in the playoffs, he's averaging what? What's Jalen Williams averaging in the playoffs? Let me see. These playoffs, he's averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. That's still a strong performance. I don't know why he's caught so much flack, probably for a couple of game here and there where he didn't play well. But I really like his game. And then Chet is a guy who obviously missed his rookie year due to injury. And then he comes, he had a good rookie year, official rookie year last year. And then he comes back this year, and it looked like he was ready, to make a jump. And then he broke I think it was his pelvis, and that kind of delayed his development. Um, but I mean, obviously a very talented player. Are they still a year away, or are they going to be able to get past the finish line this year, even though they might not quite be fully developed and fully formed yet? That's the question. But like I said, they won 68 games. They have the MVP, and I wouldn't want to face them in the NBA Finals if I were the Knicks or the Pacers. Uh, so yeah, man. Uh, it's been a can't lie, man. It's been a pretty good it's been a pretty good playoff so far, man. Uh, I'm not a fan of parity. As much has been said about this will be the first time I think in league history that a different team has won the championship in 7 straight seasons. I'm not a fan of that. I think the NBA was built on dynasties, and I think the reason that the ratings are down is because, like I said, the NBA has veered off of that formula. That's why you don't have signature stars like you used to have. How can you have them when you have different players, different team winning the championship every year? That's the way Michael Jordan and Magic and Bird and Shaq and Kobe, LeBron and Curry became, what they became was because they were playing in the finals every year, winning every other championship or so, or Michael Jordan every championship. And that's how they became iconic players, and then that's how the game grew. The way it is right now with this parody type thing that they have going on, I think that's why the ratings are down, like I said. But I have to say that these playoffs, because of the matchups, I guess, it's just been it has been a good playoffs, I must admit. And like I said, man, I was just hoping that OKC. I was hoping OKC would lose to Denver because Denver really wasn't. Denver's not that good. They just have the Joker, right? Um, and I was hoping, that that Denver would advance because it would give the Knicks a better, best outcome for everybody this season is for the Knicks to win the championship. But who knows what's going to happen, you know? But yeah, uh, I just wanted to check in with you guys. I don't think I have anything else to add. So I'm not gonna waste any more of you guys' time. I'll just say good night. And usually I would say go Lakers, but speaking of Lakers, you know how it's crazy because every year after the season, after the Lakers are eliminated, normally there's some type of it's some type of storyline. It's something that concerns the Lakers that we'd have to get on the podcast and talk about. Whether it be last year we needed a new coach, and then every year, every other year, I mean every year basically, LeBron is always either what's the new contract? He always signs the 1+1. So he's always in a situation where either is he going to opt in or is he going to opt out? And then he'll act like he's going to leave. He hasn't really been doing that this time around. He hasn't even act like he's going to leave. I think I heard Sham say that you can expect him to opt in. But so it just hasn't been. We got a coach. We know who the coach is going to be. We don't have LeBron is not pretending like he might leave. And we know that they need a big man, and they're gonna try to improve the team. If there was some talk about Austin Reeves and whether or not Austin Reeves, because he's going to be due for an extension either next summer or the summer after that, and what he might do because the Lakers can offer him 4 for $89, but he's not going to take another hometown discount and short himself again. He already did that once, so he's gonna want to get paid, and there's some talk about that. And the Lakers possibly look at trading him. Or they still have the chance, but I don't think anybody really thinks that's going to happen. If anybody did, it'd be there'd be more discussion about it, more talk about it than there has been. So, yeah, not that much Lakers stuff to talk about. That's why we haven't been on here since they got eliminated, and yeah, man. So, with that being said, as I said, I was about to say, usually I'll say good night and go Lakers. But instead, tonight I'm going to say good night and go Knicks. Take care.